A little bit about what's going on.
Well, that is true, Dawn. It's a wide and complex issue,
Mm.
and it's an issue that has grown over the years. Um, I grew up Roman Catholic. I currently go to a Russian Orthodox church because I had problems with the new Mass. As a child, I didn't like what developed organically in the
Mhm.
Western Church. However, I have a lot of loyalty to the Catholic Church, and I feel at least 30% Catholic, if that makes sense to you. Um, I think I realized that I was different in terms of being gay when I was 6 or 7, and I didn't understand it then. I just thought it was just I was just a weird kid. Um, but slowly over time, um, I tried to put that in sync with my religious beliefs. And I was a very religious kid. I wanted to be a monk, I wanted to be a priest, but sexuality was a stumbling block. How can you be a priest? How can you be a monk when you're gay? And I just couldn't reconcile the two. When I was a younger journalist and living in Boston, I did a lot of reading on the so-called new theology, how
Mhm.
the old ways of interpreting scripture, the Old Testament condemnations of homosexuality and St. Paul's views on homosexuality could all be understood in a new light. And so I read this whole new theology, but yet there was a standard theology that would not buckle under the new theology. And for years, I was back and forth with this. And
Mhm.
I have to admit that to this day, even though I was a gay activist and a member of the Boston Gay Liberation Front, I'm still not sure that homosexuality is not a sin. I mean, I can't be convinced by the secular culture um, that it's okay to sort of um, let's put it this way. If I were on my deathbed, I wouldn't call for an LGBTQ counselor. I would call for a priest. So the gay
Mhm.
community would not be on my mind if I were on my deathbed.
Yeah.
so, so I find it fascinating that in the Catholic Church, there are these two organizations, um, Dignity and Courage. Dignity, of course, is gay affirming. There are a lot of wonderful people in Dignity. I used to go to Dignity masses. Courage, on the other hand, is an organization that adheres to traditional church teaching regarding same sex attraction. Um, my problem with dignity and initially was not the theology, but was how they sort of changed the masses.
Mhm.
They started introducing, gender neutral pronouns. They started to have uncanonical so-called women priests celebrate mass. And it's developed so far afield that today anyone who feels moved by the spirit can feel called to like celebrate mass. Well, to me, this is just over the moon. And it's a complete walk away from anything related to traditional Catholicism.
We're talking to Tom Nichols, Philadelphia-based author, journalist, who's author of 8 published books, and we'll talk about your
Well,
latest one. This
16, Dawn,
16. I'm
actually.
sorry, I was looking at something that had 8. What
Well,
am I saying?
no,
16. Wow. But as we look at you, and I know that you had told me that you used to live in Center City, and then you moved to like the Port Richmond Fishtown border,
I, d-
Port Richmond section of Philadelphia.
Yeah, yeah, this was about 21 years ago when the rents in Center City were starting to really climb. And so a friend really helped engineer my move into this section of Port Richmond and Fishtown. And at first I thought he was crazy because
Mhm.
for years prior to that, I had read horror stories about Fishtown and what the people there do to gay people. And I was one of those journalists who manufactured these horror stories. I mean, of course, they were all true then, but I think that they were taken out of context. Once I moved there, I met the most wonderful people, and I discovered that there are many, many so called indigenous working class gay couples who live quietly in their homes.
Mhm.
They might not necessarily fly a rainbow flag, and they tend to be very discreet, but there are high numbers. So this was a lesson that I had to learn.
Yeah, I mean, Larry and I have lived in the Chestnut Hill section of Philadelphia for about a little bit longer even than you live there, and I would say the same. My across the street neighbors or our two partners and down the street, and I don't really think of my neighbors as I'm looking at who's fixing up their house. You know what I mean? That's how we define. Oh, they're having this done. I wonder what, who they're using or whatever. But I think you're right. Like we have to stop putting people in these boxes. And I hate it that younger people now, in fact, want to put people in more of a box than ever. Instead of saying, be who you are, be recognized for your accomplishments, right? It's more about that identity politics that closes in people.
Absolutely, and this is a problem. I mean, you can even go into areas like ageism, where
Hmm.
like people in their 20s, people my age never think about age. I'll talk to anybody,
Hmm.
but people in their 20s are always thinking about age,
Why
and they're
is that?
always developing boundary lines
Yeah.
and walls. So, and I have to wonder, did I do this as a 20 something? And I probably did. you know, so maybe it's karma coming back to bite me in the foot. So, but like you, I have tremendous problems with identity politics and labels. It's like if you have one conservative viewpoint, you're immediately identified as I don't know, a retrograde fascist or something. So
so
yeah,
what?
very distressing.
So when people find out that you're conservative,
Yeah.
and yet you're in the and it's not no longer the it's now the LGBTQ plus community. So when you're in that community and they say, "What? You're a conservative? What's the matter with
Yeah.
you?"
It's I mean, the gay movement was so important to me for so many years. I was an activist, column after column after column. I had the first, I guess, gay column in a mainstream straight newspaper, the Welcome Mat, for like years. And so for like a long time, I was on the front lines. And then the gay movement started to change. It got into the transgender thing. I mean, very, very seriously
Hmm.
until presently, it's all about transgender stuff now and gender ideology. And to a large degree, I think that the gay movement at this point is really over. That it's all about trans rights and it's become something else. Um, and it's kind of sad because I talk to friends who cannot relate to the movement anymore. I mean,
Yeah.
they won't say this publicly because you risk a kind of a soft public stoning if you come out too strong. So, this is all said on the down low, and
Right.
you know,
It's so true. I mean, nobody even thinks about, the rainbow on the White House or gay rights. Nobody even talks about it anymore at all.
no,
I,
because it's just Barbara Giddings, who was a famous Philadelphia lesbian leader, once said that it was her wish that things could become so normalized that there wouldn't be any use for a gay church or any separate gay organizations, that it would be completely assimilated into the larger society where the gay movement could just disband. But that's not happening. It's like new issues are being invented all the time.
so on one hand, maybe the trans movement has normalized everything else. On the other hand, though, I think a movement has been hijacked by
I
a,
think it has been
you know,
hijacked. And
and I think that's troublesome. I think of Martina Navratilova, who actually loves Philadelphia. I see her every once in a while
wow,
in Philadelphia, in the Chestnut Hill section of Philadelphia, as
I've
she
always
visits
admired
friends.
her.
And when she was speaking out about the fact, for example, that women in sports cannot compete at any level against men, biological men. We just can't. We're the weaker sex when it comes to competing. And she has spoken out about that. And somebody as powerful a voice and as a talent as far as women's tennis, to say what she has said, and she's obviously she's in the gay community, and the fact that she was just whoosh, canceled out. shows you what's going on.
Yeah. There's no room for a diversity of opinions,
Yeah.
and for instance, and they do cancel you out after a fashion, um, but so many of these issues are just common sense issues, and it really bothers me when I hear the Human Rights Campaign come out and say that there's this new national attack on gay people now, because they're banning books for pre-K children about gender
Hmm.
ideology. That is not anti-gay. I'm sorry. It is not anti-gay because you object to biological men
Hmm.
participating in women's sports. That has nothing to do with being gay at all. And this lie is being shoved down our collective throats, and so many people are buying it. It's so distressing. Um,
It really is.
yeah.
We're talking to Tom Nichols, Philadelphia-based journalist and columnist, who I know many of you know Tom and read his great work, award-winning. And by the way, award-winning for your work on architectural journalism. You write for the City Journal, New York Front Page Magazine, author of 16 books, and we'll talk about number 16 just around the corner, which I'm really interested to hear because this was a big Philadelphia crime story that you're delving into, which is my wheelhouse definitely as a longtime news reporter. But literary Philadelphia, from Mother Divine to the Corner Swami religious cults in Philadelphia, and also Death in Philadelphia, Murder of Kimberly Ernest. That one was just released in May of 2023. So we'll talk about all of this with Tom as we move forward. So we're going to take a quick break, and we can take your calls afterwards. 855-839-1210 is the number to call. So more with award-winning author Tom Nichols right around the corner.
Don't take shots just to lose weight. NJ Diet's typical results are twice as fast without any of the side effects. You will lose a contractually guaranteed 20 to 40 plus pounds in only 40 days, the natural way. Go to njdiet.com. That's njdiet.com.
When you need to know, depend on KYW News Radio 103.9 FM.
SEPTA begins construction today, closing the Penn Medicine Station and affecting 3 regional rail lines. Video showing an Ohio police officer releasing his K9 on an unarmed man during a traffic stop prompts investigation. And Elon Musk unveils a black and white X logo that will replace Twitter's blue bird.
Get the latest anytime on KYW News Radio. Now on Crystal Clear 103.9 FM.
You've never needed us more.
Hi, my name is PJ Vogt. I host the podcast Search Engine, where every week I hunt down the answers to the questions I can't get out of my head. Like, why are drug dealers poisoning their customers with fentanyl? Or, is my local sushi restaurant a part of an international scam? Or, how sad are the monkeys at the zoo? If you, like me, find this world bewildering, but also sometimes enjoy being bewildered by it, check out the show on the Odyssey app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever else you listen.
So many listeners are enjoying beautiful, easy-to-maintain homes thanks to Rhino Shield, and you can too. Dom Giordano here with my good friend, the local owner of Rhino Shield. John, take it away.
John from Rhino Shield here, reminding you that when it comes to painting your home, there is a better way. We all know that traditional paint just doesn't last, and that's why painters only offer a 1-year guarantee. But Rhino Shield is different. Our elastomeric ceramic house paint is warranted for 25 years, so you'll never paint again. Don't spend your money on regular paint that just doesn't last. Invest instead in a product that will protect your home and look beautiful for years to come. Let Rhino Shield show you how you can be done with frequent painting. Call us today at 484-406-5111 for a free consultation, or find us online at www.myrhinoshield.com.
At Independence Blue Cross, we believe in giving you the tools you need to pursue your healthiest life. From premiums as low as $0 per month to health discounts and cash rewards, it pays to have coverage with Independence. With the strongest network of doctors and hospitals in the region and free 24/7 virtual doctor visits, you can feel confident that quality care is always within reach. Learn more about your coverage options at ibx.com.
Hi, this is Dom Giordano. Summer's the perfect time for your child or grandchild to get ahead. If your child needs support, special tutoring, and custom instruction, METC is here to help. Now's the time to make the call to METC. Call the Motivational Educational Tutoring Company. For over 30 years, METC's tutoring studio, founded by educator Kathy Gannett, has helped people of all ages to grow personally and academically. Call Kathy now at 215-493-4200. METC offers motivational SAT prep as well as academic skills and leadership training. Call 215-493-4200. Now's the time to get assistance for your child to help them succeed. Visit online, METC.com. METC's tutoring studio. Call them today, 215-493-4200, or email Kathy directly, info@metc.com. Remember, 1210 listeners get a free 1-hour consultation. Take advantage of this opportunity. Help your child get one-on-one help. 215-493-4200.
We all know that taxes are just part of life. It's true during our working years, but also in retirement. But what you might not know is up to 85% of your Social Security benefits might be taxed. Our team at Thrive Financial has helped retire thousands of people across the Delaware Valley by asking questions they never knew they needed to ask, including how their Social Security benefits might be taxed. It's time to be proactive on taxes. Get your Thrive Retirement Tax Playbook today.
In the Wildwoods, you'll find plenty of shore.
Fishing at sunrise?
Sure.
Shopping after lunch?
Sure.
Ice cream for breakfast?
Sure.
How about free beaches?
Sure.
Great restaurants?
And nightlife?
Oh, for sure. With the best of the Jersey Shore all on one 5-mile island, you're sure to find everything you're looking for. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods. Start planning your stay now. Visit wildwoodsnj.com.
Jack Smith going to Subway today is a message to Donald Trump. Donald Trump tries to intimidate people. That was Jack Smith with no words and a simple $5 sub in his hand saying, I'm here, I'm not going anywhere.
So brave, he went to Subway, where all those MAGA people usually hang out to beat the crap out of people. Like Jack Smith is showing he's strong by going to lunch. And to double down, he went to dinner.
Rich Zioli, weekday afternoons 3 to 7. Talk Radio 1210, WPHT. And on the free Odyssey app. Hale and Company mornings. Rich Zioli afternoons. Free speech lives here. Talk Radio 1210 WPHT.
We're talking to the author of Death in Philadelphia, the Murder of Kimberly Ernest. Starts out with the body of a young female jogger found at the bottom of a stairwell near Philadelphia's Rittenhouse Square in the early morning hours of November 2nd, 1995. A brutal crime that shocked the city. So the author, award-winning journalist and author Tom Nichols is here. He's an author, a writer who lives in the Fishtown, Port Richmond section of the city, and also known as a conservative commentator as well. So we're returning with Tom. So good to have you here this morning.
Thank you, Dawn, for the invite.
Absolutely. So tell me about the book.
Well, the book was, I lived at 21st and Pine, which was across the street from the stairwell. And in the early hours, I heard a chorus of voices which woke me up from a sound sleep. It was a terrifying scream of some sort. I went to work and I came back. And at that point, the body had been discovered. I was a journalist who covered this case for a news magazine called Au Courant. So I guess I was on the case early on, but I also knew a lot of the principal players. I knew one of Kimberly's friends. 4 months prior to the murder, I had been confronted by one of her killers on Pine Street in the early morning. I think he thought that I was looking at him too long. And he approached me, and I don't know what I said to sort of tranquilize him and to sort of send him away, but I did it. But when I saw his photo on the front page of the Daily News with the other, at then suspect, Herbert Hack, I recognized him immediately as Richard Wise. Richard Wise and Herbert Hack were also found guilty of attacking black men and gay men throughout the city prior to the murder of Kimberly Ernest. So they had a reputation as kind of center city thugs. They were petty car thieves, essentially. Um, but I used to see Kimberly Ernest jog since I lived at 21st and Pine. I would see her often jogging down to the river and Schuylkill River Park, and then she would do a U-turn and come up and jog past the stairwell, ironically enough. But that morning, when I was there, when they found the body, there was no way that I could not follow the case.
And so, of you've covered the city of Philadelphia, and this one maybe the reason, as opposed to because certainly, I mean that one was 1995, but I think of the late 90s. There was the Center City rapist who was attacking joggers and killing women. So why this one? Was it because of that personal connection that you had seen this particular victim jogging? So it's not about necessarily crime in Philadelphia. It's taking us through the prosecution, the jury, all of that. What happened in that case?
It just seemed that because I was almost attacked by one of her killers because I used to see her jog, because I knew one of her boyfriends who was a friend of mine. I did not know it at the time, and I also knew the man that an attorney in Ballackinwood tried to pin the crime on uh, before Richard Weiss and Herbert Hack were acquitted. Um, this story is a Byzantine multi-layer cake of corruption and tragedies. And I say that because the jury acquitted Richard Weiss and Herbert Hack because of the DNA. The DNA did not match. But that was because Kimberly had a boyfriend or a boyfriend. So the DNA did not really matter. They were also on drugs. So an attempted rape necessarily would not result in a successful rendezvous that way. And I'm sorry to say, at the time, in 1995, there was a problem with the Philadelphia police occasionally forcing confessions out of people. But this is what Richard Wise and Hack claimed, that their confessions were forced, which in this case was a lie. I had interviewed one of the detectives on the case, Tom Augustine, when I went to Fort Lauderdale. And basically, Tom told me how he interrogated Herbert Hack. So the police in this case did their job. Another very, very sad thing about this case was that the jury, this was not long after the OJ case. And when I interviewed Kimberly's mother, Dorothy, she told me that in the courtroom, she heard the foreman or somebody from the jury say to the other jurors, "We have to reach a verdict faster than OJ." And this jury at the time was also sequestered. They don't do that now because you can't separate juries from their families and loved ones. They get antsy, they get crazy, they want the trial over with. And this was a bad jury, a bad jury. They did not do Kimberly Ernest justice. And so that you have tragedy on top of tragedy. And so, and unfortunately, I was implicated by this attorney in Ballackinwood as hiding evidence because I knew the person that they had accused of this crime. So it got very, very ugly. And as I explained in the book, just how ugly it got.
Yeah. Can you talk about, how it changes a person when you cover, and for this one, you had personal connections to it, but how it stays with you? I mean, here you are all these years later, and it has stayed with you, and her murder has stayed with you.
Yeah, Dawn, the only thing that I regret is when I heard this chorus of voices before dawn, this horrific scream, I wish that I had gotten up and gone to the kitchen window and looked out. But I sat up in bed, and because I didn't hear a follow-up scream, I assumed perhaps that they were just drunken Penn students. And so when I didn't hear a follow-up scream, I went back to sleep. But I can tell you that it was a scream that really pierced the soul. It was different than just a hooligan scream in a city street.
How have you seen, you write, and I saw one of the descriptions about your latest book, Tom, and you talk about the fact that this murder touched the city in such a way. And I think of now on a daily basis. I mean, I start out the morning 6 o'clock in the morning reporting for Kale and Company. That 6 a.m. news is usually it usually is a police blotter from maybe the 12 or 24 hours prior. And now we have so many shootings and killings, and a lot of them tragically are children being victimized. Can you take me through what you've seen in your career as writing, covering Philadelphia, what's happening, police, you mentioned police procedures, and changes in attitude toward police?
You know, I used to dislike the police intensely because I had some very, very bad experiences in the late 70s. Picked up twice by a so-called paddy wagon. They don't call them paddy wagons anymore. But once because I was in a gay area talking to somebody. That's it. And once because I had red hair and they were looking for a red-haired suspect. So the back of the police van was filled with like red-haired guys. So we go to the lineup way, way far away. When it's over, okay, goodbye. Take yourself home. You know what I mean? Things like this. But I've seen since 2020, I think, when I saw the city crumble, when I saw my neighborhood of Fishtown, Port Richmond, ATMs blown up, stores destroyed, sounds of drums in the street, bombs going off. And I mean, this is like no exaggeration. It was very, very scary. And then when I saw the media castigate men in Fishtown who thought that maybe the neighborhood needed help, and they gathered with baseball bats, I understand these men. This was a dangerous, dangerous time. So, every life is sacred. And but what I see is some kind of a slow death in the city, both with the drug problem, homelessness, things declining, quality everywhere declining. In my own neighborhood, the Wawa, which used to be open all night, now closes at 11. The Rite Aid, which used to be open all night, closes at 11. The Dunkin' Donuts now closes at 11. It's like a small town in Idaho, locked up and barred. And this is supposed to be the city that never sleeps.
Yeah.
So,
and that's the thing that I think hurts, is that when you love the city, we have such a beautiful city. Over the weekend at one point, I was with family. We went to the art museum, beautiful exhibits, runners and bikers all around Kelly Drive. And you think about the quality of life and how safe it is. I mean, perfectly safe. And one of my teenage kids, they had a friend whose mom insisted that she would drive, and because they're from the suburbs and they're terrified to drive into the city. And so it's, as a longtime city resident, we're like, no, you're fine, you're safe. But then is it not ironic? Then are we part of the problem in the media because we report on what is factual when police are giving out information and suspects and so on? But on the other hand, you don't want to disproportionately report on things because we live in this incredible, world-class, beautiful city of Philadelphia with so much to do and so much to offer.
It's an incredible city in so many ways, and you're right. When you are a city resident for so long, you learn to tweak the bad things and you learn to tweak the violence, and you almost have a sense of what neighborhoods are good, where to go at a certain time, and you just know, for the most part, that you're safe. I think that when you live in the suburbs, unfortunately, you're so detached. You need the psychic aura of city life to have this sense of, like, it's not like a war zone per se, but it can be sometimes in some neighborhoods. And that's the sad part too, is that these things tend to happen in the same neighborhood.
Yeah, and usually at sundown, or after hours, but sometimes after school, and that's a sad one too.
That's a strange thing because I have a charter school very, very near me, And at 3 o'clock, I mean, these kids are like an occupying army. They go into Wawa, and the security guards are on their heads, like, not knowing what to do.
Yeah.
And it can be so rambunctious that the school has hired special security to follow the children to the bus stop. This is incredible. They will like wait there discreetly on the sidelines for like anything to go crazy. So yeah, you're right about that.
Yeah, that's so true. Well, Tom, I thank you for the conversation. Tom Nichols, and talking about your latest book. I mean, all of your books are fantastic, and obviously some of them award-winning that our audience is very familiar with. But Tom Nichols, thank you so much for breaking it all down for us this morning. I really appreciate you.
Well, thank you, Dawn.
Thanks,
Thank
Tom.
you very much.
We're going to take a quick break. We'll take your calls, 855-839-1210. Be right back.
Celebrate America and Israel in an evening filled with patriotism and Zionism, camaraderie, and delicious food. It's the Greater Philadelphia ZOA Gala on September 7th at the Hilton City Avenue. Join the celebration and honor Bart Blatstein, Justice Sandra Schultz-Newman, Stan and Diane Cardano-Casaccio, and Michael Goldfarb. For tickets and to learn how you can participate, call 610-660-9466 or visit philly.zoa.org. That's philly.zoa.org. And we'll see you September 7th.
Hi everyone, this is Stephanie Kelly from Emmons Roofing and Siding, and I have some exciting news to share. Emmons has partnered with SunPower, the top-rated home solar company in New Jersey. SunPower has been leading the solar industry for over 37 years and is the only U.S. solar company that's lasted longer than their 25-year warranty. Kill the bill, the energy bill that is. Imagine no more high energy bills, while all the while helping reduce your carbon footprint at no cost to you. It's a win-win. Yes, we now offer solar, but remember, if you need a new roof, siding, doors, windows, or interior remodeling, don't wait. Right now, Emmons is offering all 1210 listeners 10% off roofing, siding, and Anderson windows. And we are continuing to offer 12-month same as cash financing. And don't forget that lifetime warranty on your roof. Give us a call today for a free estimate at 856-885-6677, emmonsroofing.com. Roofing, siding, windows, doors, kitchens, baths, and solar. Trust Emmons to be your first and last stop for all your home improvement needs. emmonsroofing.com.
1877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
Donate today at carsforkids.org. Your car, running or not, can be picked up as soon as the next day. No title, no problem. Go to carsforkids.org today.
1877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
Now accepting donations of land, homes, buildings, or any kind of real estate.
Now, your Live Nation lineup.
Don't miss these upcoming shows.
Check out the Outlaw Music Festival with Willie Nelson at The Man August 5th. And see One Fine Day with Sting and Shaggy also at The Man September 9th. Check out Squeeze and the Psychedelic Furs live at the Met September 13th. Outlaw Music Festival, One Fine Day, Squeeze and the Psychedelic Furs. For tickets and info, go to livenation.com.
Do you have heart failure and often hear,
"Those stomach issues ruined your birthday"?
"You're too tired to play catch, Grandpa."
Sweetie, you haven't touched your tools since the carpal tunnel syndrome diagnosis.
If these seemingly unrelated symptoms sound familiar, talk to your cardiologist and ask about transthyretin amyloid cardiomyopathy, or ATTR-CM, a rare and underdiagnosed disease that gets worse over time. Learn more at connecttoyourheart.com. That's connecttoyourheart.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
The nation's top PhD economist, the late Dr. David Babbel, spent over 25 years at the esteemed Wharton School of Business. In the groundbreaking film, The Baby Boomer Dilemma, Dr. Babbel leads an army of renowned financial experts in revealing the proven method economists around the globe agree is the best way to guarantee the lifetime income you need to maintain your lifestyle throughout retirement.
The approach that I use to fund lifetime income, you get enough to live off of to get your basic income. And when my wife says, "Dear, we need some more money, it's not making it," I say, "Have I got a deal for you?" Whoa, it increases our income by 25, 30%.
Learn how the guaranteed income solution Dr. Babel utilized for himself is in fact the proprietary crash-proof retirement system by reserving your seat for the next private screening of The Baby Boomer Dilemma, July 25th at Spring Mill Manor. Registration is required. 800-722-9728 or crashproofretirement.com.
Attention taxpayers, ready for some bad news? With $80 billion in new funding from Congress, the IRS has launched their most aggressive hiring campaign ever to ramp up enforcement. If you're ignoring your taxes, don't delay another minute because your paycheck, your bank account, even your home or business could already be at risk. Now, here's the good news. Optima Tax Relief, America's #1 tax relief firm, can get to work immediately, helping to protect you from the IRS. A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, their tax attorneys and licensed professionals are experts at resolving tax problems. Let them help determine if you qualify for the Fresh Start Initiative or other powerful IRS tax assistance programs. Take control. Call Optima Tax Relief now for a free consultation.
Call 800-956-4775. 800-956-4775. 800-956-4775.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Rich Zioli is back on the road this summer at his happy place, the Grand Hotel in Cape May.
Is this not a beautiful place or what, huh?
Join us for a special Thursday broadcast this Thursday, July 27th, 3 till 7. Whether you're on your way to Cape May or already there, come by for all the fun.
Come on by if you're on your way to Cape May.
The Grand Hotel is at 1045 Beach Ave. This Thursday, 3 till 7. Only on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT and the Odyssey app.
My family always looks forward to the summer road trip. This time of year, what a great time of year to find that new, certified, or pre-owned vehicle from my friends at the Piazza Auto Group. You know, Piazza carries more than 1,200 pre-owned vehicles at any given time. Not just the brands you've heard me talk about, where I get my Honda, obviously regularly serviced with Piazza, but Honda, Acura, Mazda, Hyundai, Volkswagen. They also have pretty much any other brand that you can imagine. You saw it on the road, they've got it. That's selection. Just visit PiazzaAutogroup.com, Piazza, Autogroup.com. You can search Piazza's pre-owned inventory or for a dealer near you. And they're all over the place. Pennsylvania, Delaware, New Jersey. Make sure you tell them Dawn sent you.
Download the free Odyssey app, AUDACY, and take us along wherever you're going this summer. Talk Radio 1210 WPHT. WPHT.
So thanking my first guest, Tom Nichols, whose article in broadandliberty.com, Dignity, Courage, and the Church. That's where you can find it, broadandliberty.com. And then his latest book, Death in Philadelphia, The Murder of Kimberly Ernest, is the newest release, his latest book. And a lot of award-winning works, but fun to talk to Tom, to catch up with him. And Anthony, did you see him at the latest? He had a book signing with Annie McCormick of 6ABC. She had her piece, but did you see him at Barnes & Noble, or you just saw the book on display with the local books?
Yeah, I didn't see him, unfortunately. I saw the book, though. They're
Cool.
displaying it at the Center City Barnes &
Nice.
Noble, so if you want to check it out. And on Amazon, I was putting up the link in our YouTube chat if you want to check it out there.
Yeah, I love, all the stories about Philadelphia, whether it's crimes, murder mysteries. I'm a sucker for all those kinds of books, and especially his personal take, as he was, that he weaves that in. It's fascinating to me, the fact that somebody was accusing him of, as an investigative journalist, of withholding information. It's really interesting. 855-839-1210 if you want to sound off on that one. Well, a lot of the networks, by the way, Elon Musk, did you see this? He's asking people, since he's changing the name on Twitter to X, what should you call tweeting? So he's holding a poll, and he says, now the Twitter will be known as X. What should we call tweeting? Xing? Because that sounds like you broke up with somebody, like your ex.
Yeah,
EX.
yeah, I
But
don't know how that
this is
sounds.
just X, like Roman numeral 10.
Do you like the rebrand?
I do.
I mean, I think it's cool because they're trying to make people think about it differently.
Because he's changed it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think the X is more sophisticated than a little bird. What does that mean? Like the bird. I always wondered that.
Just like it's like when a bird chirps out in the air. That's what tweeting was referring to.
Right. So, do you want to be chirping?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess that's what we all did. I don't know.
Or were we chirping or were we squawking? Because that's
probably both.
Don't squawk at me. I don't know. But anyway, if you have thoughts about what it should be named or Xing, what else could it be? Besides tweeting. You can X me.
Are we just going to call them complaints now?
I don't know. I really don't know. I have no idea. But Elon Musk and I know he's lost a lot of money, and he jokes. I mean, the thing I like about him, he's got to be the most self-deprecating billionaire ever. You don't hear that from a lot of these other guys. But he's saying, hey, I lost all this money, $44 billion. Is it right? $44 billion he paid. So if you want to sound off on that, you can. 855-839-1210. There's this other story, and it's an exclusive in the Post. Miranda Devine writing about Hunter Biden, and we're expecting this new testimony that, I would have said a bombshell, but the truth is, for some it will be a bombshell, and for others it will be a nothing burger because, like everything else, the left will ignore it. And that's a real problem if we can't even have the conversation. But if you've seen it, it's Miranda Devine, New York Post, in today's Post. And she's writing about the fact that Hunter Biden put then VP, the vice president, which would be Joe Biden back when he was VP. Hunter Biden put dad on the phone with business associates at least 24 times. 24 times. And so this is the testimony that is expected from Devin Archer. And this continues with, all of these different former business associates of Hunter Biden. I don't even know if it matters anymore, quite frankly, because the left is just going to poo-poo it or ignore it. That's what they do. They just ignore it. Didn't happen. If we don't talk about it, doesn't happen. And so part of the country, maybe a third or half of the country, hears about it, sees it. The others never do. But this one is claiming, and this is testimony that will happen in a transparent way before Congress this week, from Devin Archer. And this is supposedly the BFF, or maybe the former BFF of Hunter Biden. So Archer is 48, facing jail time for his role in a $60 million bond fraud situation, scheduled to testify to the House Oversight Committee about meetings that he says he witnessed that were attended by Joe Biden, either in person, he says, or via speakerphone, when Hunter would call dad and then introduce him to foreign business partners or prospective investors. And obviously the appearance then, and the allegation here is that this was a pay-to-play situation. So I don't know exactly when this testimony is going to happen this week. We're being told it's going to happen. But Archer, who was also a director of the company, is expected to testify that after dinner with the Burisma board at one of these fancy, swanky hotels, he and Hunter traveled 6 miles north to the Four Seasons Resort Dubai on the beach to have a drink with one of Hunter's friends. Tells the whole story about this, being with this senior Burisma executive and phoning to ask where they were because Burisma's owner needed to speak to Hunter urgently. So, in other words, details, and the details matter. You think of the term, I'll say provenance. You think about in the artwork world, since I was recently at the art museum, I'm thinking about the word provenance. But in other words, when you're thinking about credibility, all of these details and tracking the details, because then they can go back and the investigators can go back and say, okay, let's look at the hotel records. Let's look at the phone records from that time and try to track all of this down and prove the testimony, prove the phone records, prove the banking records, prove who was there, who checked in, and so on and so forth. And that's how they have to go back and do the homework and make sure that this story is actually a true story, or is he just trying to get a lighter sentence? Because after all, he's somebody who's facing jail time on a fraud case, on a separate case. So this is one of those situations where we have to, I do want to see this. I want to hear his testimony and then look at, can they back up the claim? And certainly we know that banking records, receipts, all of that matters as they look into this and investigate it. That takes time. It takes energy. But if they can dot all those I's and cross all those T's, do you think then that it will hold credibility? So moving forward, we'll play what Newt Gingrich had to say about it. He had a lot to say about it and thinks that it's a smoking gun, if you will. Do we have that? Do you have Nudie? I remember his mom called him Nudie with Connie Chung, but that was a long time ago. But we have, some conservatives and Republicans saying, yeah, this is problematic because there are so many details. But on the other hand, you're already seeing Democrats and some of the media elite already shying away from this or pointing out that this guy is facing jail time himself. So we'll have the conversation. But it will be significant this week. Also significant this week, I know that this week the Fed is expected to raise rates at least a 0.25 percentage point as they still try to cool down hot inflation. It's interesting. On one hand, they're saying, oh, the economy, Bidenomics, it's all looking good. Really? It's all cooling down. Then why does the Fed once again have to hike interest rates, or will they do that? So we'll talk about the economy this week. It's going to be another big story for sure. So I have to take a quick break. And around the corner, we'll take your calls too. 855-839-1210. Let me know what you did over the weekend. I'm also going to talk in the 11 a.m. hour. Something else that I did over the weekend was attend a police athletic league event where a great local police chief of Abington, who I know you know well, Chief Pat Malloy, was there playing dodgeball and basketball with the kids. And I was disappointed to see the Philadelphia Inquirer just taking swipes at one of my favorite all-time police chiefs, who's a good guy and has dedicated his life to protecting and serving. And they bunch him in with partisan career politicians. Why? Because everything's political. So I'll talk about that as well, because I think it's an unfair swipe taken by the Philadelphia Inquirer, and I think it's a low blow, quite frankly. So we'll have that conversation right around the corner. This is The Dawn Show. Be right back.
Chronic joint pain has a snowball effect. It's not just the pain.
What that did is just make me depressed that I couldn't get back into the gym, and I was inactive, gaining weight. I had to find another alternative.
And for Chad, that alternative was QC Kinetics and the non-surgical natural biologic treatments that can give lasting relief to aching hips, shoulders, knees, and backs.
Once they explained it, it made sense. Putting what we have inside our body back into us in a certain strategic way to heal up in a natural process was fantastic.
QC Kinetics treatments take place right in the office. No downtime, no surgery. And as for the outcome?
I'm just back to bouncing around, having fun, doing my work, living pain-free.
Don't let chronic joint pain rob you of your quality of life. Discover advanced regenerative medicine at QC Kinetics. Call now to learn more. It's a free consultation.
Call QC Kinetics, 215-999-3000. That's 215-999-3000. 215-999-3000.
Rich Zioli.
Did the COVID-19 virus originate from the Chinese Wuhan Institute of Virology?
I have no idea.
Huh? What do I know? I don't know nothing. And he's supposed to complete Frank Pantangeli in that moment.
I don't know nothing about that.
They said, Fauci wanted a deal. He said, say it was a civet or a raccoon dog. I said, yeah, that's all it was. I don't know nothing about that, Senator.
Rich Zioli, weekday afternoons, 3 to 7. Talk Radio 1210, WPHT, and on the free Odyssey app.
Hypertrophic cardiomyopathy is a serious heart condition. Some symptoms include being short of breath, feeling tired, or having dizziness or chest pain. My HCM impacted how I felt and what I could do. So I asked my cardiologist about treatment advances that gave me new options. That conversation was big for me. Talk to your cardiologist today. You may be glad you did.
John was compensated for his time. Sponsored by Bristol Myers Squibb.
Hi, this is Dom Giordano. Get ready for a merry surprise because Rescue Natural Supplements is throwing their annual Christmas in July sale. That's right. The holiday season is making a summer comeback, and they're bringing the gift of huge savings. That means all health supplements will be slashed up to 50, 60, even 70% off site-wide. We're talking about savings on heart-healthy omega-3s, pain-relieving anti-inflammatories, natural immunity boosters, and much more to order. Call 800-26-ALIVE, 800-262-5483. Speak to a Rescue product consultant or shop online at res-q.com. res-q.com. Again, don't miss Rescue's Christmas in July sale. Get savings up to 70% off all natural solutions for your highs and lows, from high blood pressure or cholesterol to low energy or testosterone. Rescue's got you covered. Hurry on over and unwrap the joy of a healthier you.
When you need to know, depend on KYW News Radio 103.9 FM.
SEPTA begins construction today, closing the Penn Medicine Station and affecting 3 regional rail lines. Video showing an Ohio police officer releasing his K-9 on an unarmed man during a traffic stop prompts investigation. And Elon Musk unveils a black and white X logo that will replace Twitter's blue bird.
Get the latest anytime on KYW News Radio. Now on Crystal Clear 103.9 FM.
You've never needed us more.
Hi, it's John DeMasi, host of Health Watch, Sunday mornings at 8 and again Sunday afternoons at 4, right here on Talk Radio 1210 WPHC. Are you struggling with things like fatigue, body aches, headaches, brain fog? You may be living with Lyme disease. And this may be true even if you have received antibiotics or your Lyme test was negative. Dr. Molly Fantasia and the healthcare team at Innovative Medical Associates have used medical hydration therapy to help hundreds of patients to reduce symptoms often associated with post-Lyme disease syndrome.
I want to get you through your initial challenge, working alongside with my physicians, and then get you to a place where we are looking at maintaining your immune system, maintaining your quality of life.
Visit innovativemedicalassociates.com to schedule a free consultation with Dr. Molly in their Marlton, New Jersey office. And join us Sunday mornings at 8 and again at 4 to learn more about the benefits of medical hydration.
This is Edward James Olmos. Did you know that today 1 out of every 4 American kids is Hispanic? That means many of the future doctors, engineers, and entrepreneurs of our country can be your kids. We all know how hard it is for you to send them to college. This is why many support you. And the Hispanic Scholarship Fund helps you prepare, plan, and pay for your kids' college education. Learn more at hsf.net. Brought to you by the Hispanic Scholarship Fund and the Ad Council.
Dom Giordano.
Bruce in Northeast.
Dom, my condolences to the legendary Barco Lounger. You know, I just think of all the glasses of wine that were spilled on and all the farts that were absorbed into that. It's going to be missed. It'll never be the same.
I hope I get home, it's still out, and I see who eventually takes it.
Somebody could salvage it, man.
It's Dom Time. Dom Giordano. Weekdays noon till 3 on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT and the free Odyssey app.
Don't take shots just to lose weight. NJ Diet's typical results are twice as fast without any of the side effects. You will lose a contractually guaranteed 20 to 40 plus pounds in only 40 days, the natural way. Go to njdiet.com. That's njdiet.com.
Hire comedian Joe Conklin for corporate events, golf outings, and private parties.
Yo, this is Tom Sapwager from Schreiner Tree Care out in King of Prussia. We had Joe Conklin. We did not stop laughing for the whole show.
Hey, this is George Wolf. We've had Joe Conklin at our events for the last 3 years. People keep coming back in droves.
Hi, this is Al Morgani from the Save the Geese Foundation in Medford. We hired Joe Conklin. He arrived drunk, and things went downhill from there.
Hire Joe Conklin for your next event. Go to joeconklin.com. joeconklin.com.
Talk Radio 1210 WPHT, WPHT-HD, WOGL HD3, Philadelphia. Always live on the free Odyssey app. From the Cherry Hill Volvo Studios, where relationships matter. Live and local from Philadelphia. The Dawn Stensland Show on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT.
Headlines in Philadelphia and Pennsylvania. Philadelphia area getting $1 million for transit improvements, some sidewalk repairs, much needed. Hey, the Pennsylvania Treasury returns a record $274 million in unclaimed property. will tell you how you can check to make sure you don't still have some unclaimed property. I've had this happen to me. And legislators wanting to see emergency responders get $2,500 in tax credit. So this is for EMS workers as we thank them for their service. Just some of the articles written by my friend Anthony Hennon, who's a staff reporter at the Center Square, a great writer. Anthony Hennon, I call you the other Anthony because we have our executive producer, Anthony Gerenzo. But welcome in, Anthony. You've been busy since we talked last.
Always busy. Thanks for having me, Don.
Absolutely. And you also have a weekly podcast on America's Talking Network as well. So first of all, tell me about Philadelphia. And this is in the news this morning about some change-ups with SEPTA, but ultimately good news as we see sidewalk repairs happening and some major transit improvements.
Yeah, so this is part of about $1 million coming to the Philadelphia area from the Federal Transit Administration. Essentially, SEPTA is looking to get about $500,000, and then another $450,000 is coming to the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission, which basically encompasses Philadelphia and 8 counties surrounding it. But essentially, both of these will go not necessarily to construction, but basically study and design of future construction. Basically trying to connect public transit better, repair some sidewalks, and kind of connect that network to make it easier for people to get across the city. Within Philadelphia itself, SEPTA is focusing on about 3.5 miles of a corridor of Erie Avenue that runs between Hunting Park and Kensington Avenues in North Philly. Basically trying to figure out, how can we improve some safety issues here? How can we make things more efficient and basically tie this transit system together better?
Yeah, and there's a lot of coverage this morning about SEPTA making major service adjustments that'll impact regional rail passengers who use the airport, media, and Wilmington, Newark lines. So some of those changes are coming as the final stage of the Southwest Connection Improvement Program. So I know that a lot of people are talking about this, but Penn Medicine, that station, will have no train service now through Saturday, August 26th. This is a pain for people who rely on this for work or school, the hospitals in the area. You always see people in their, what do you call it, the scrubs, walking to and from either school or work. So the signs are all posted, but it's I know that they're running some shuttle buses between 30th Street Station, 33rd, and Spruce Street. And then the Lucy bus will be available for service around Penn Medicine Station. And then the airport line is impacted as well. So I'll just give a heads up since we're talking about that, Anthony, some of the stories that have a direct impact on people. But overall, I think it's a good thing that we have $1 million for transit improvements. It's always a pain when the sidewalk is all messed up and you have to cross the street. You're trying to, catch a train or whatever, and so I'm glad that they're addressing it. Is this federal money?
Yes. This $1 million coming in from the federal government, thankfully. So this is not necessarily just a burden on Pennsylvania or Philadelphia residents, thankfully. So that helps take the burden off a little bit. Even though we're looking down the line here, we're facing a sustained structural deficit coming up. Starting in 2025, where SEPTA is looking at a budget hole of about $240 million a year. So SEPTA's kind of been warning about this for some months. We're kind of facing some difficult decisions ahead. How that will exactly shake out, it's not quite clear just yet.
Yeah, sometimes I wonder with all the evolution of rideshare and all of that, if those big buses, when they stink and they're not even full. Sometimes they're half full. And I think, isn't there a more efficient way with these big buses? I don't know. Maybe down the line they have to think about efficiency and everybody's talking about climate change and having these big buses on the road. There was that horrible bus just recently. What was that, Friday night or over the weekend? Fatal bus accident. I don't know. Sometimes I think maybe they should look at maybe evolving with all the rideshare services.
Yeah, I think it's hard to say, especially in a system like this. I mean, from my travels, I've been over in Eastern Europe where you see some of this public transit. It's more of these passenger vans rather than a larger bus. I think, I think American transit agencies in general could learn something from that. But at the same time, it's sort of a chicken and egg situation here where, within SEPTA, within Center City, you'll get bus delays and everything else. But SEPTA also, they're not given bus only lanes. Even when you have cars parked illegally in bus lanes or at bus stops, SEPTA does not actually have the authority to ticket those drivers, even though they can record these violations, but they can't yet act on that.
Yeah.
So I think even aside from how big should these buses be or expand beyond that, there does seem like there's some local or state level fixes we could get to actually at least, if not make them super efficient and turning a huge profit or anything, at least make them more reliable and faster. But there's so many different ways you could take that, I think.
Yeah, well said. And especially since in Philadelphia, a lot of kids, well, obviously high school kids, their mode of transportation is to ride SEPTA. There are no school buses for high school kids, and quite frankly, for a lot of middle school kids too, and younger kids. So I think that's a consideration. All right, I'll move on. Tell me a little bit about one of your pieces about EMS workers, and that there's legislation being proposed that would see EMS workers, those first responders, get a tax credit of about $2,500.
Yeah, so this sort of mirrors a proposal that's also kicking around right now that essentially would give tax credits out to police officers, nurses, and teachers. This is essentially a bill that House Bill 1557, kind of riffing on that similar concept, but expanding it also to cover EMS workers, firefighters, also a $2,500 tax credit that would last for 3 years before it expires. So this is another one of those ideas coming out of the General Assembly of how do we entice people to become EMS workers, volunteer as a firefighter, trying to keep them around longer to get help kind of fill those gaps, because a lot of this we have a vast shortage of volunteer firefighters across the Commonwealth. A lot of our EMS personnel, there's a lot of turnover in who holds the job, and just the low pay and the stress of the job. It's hard to keep people around. So this is another one of those bills floating around, trying to get people, if not, that sense of civic duty, fill in the gap, give them more of a financial incentive here.
Yeah, I think it's smart as far as offering it as well to those volunteer workers. Now I see that, you write in your article that Representative Joe Hogan, I almost said Joe Rogan, Representative Joe Hogan, who's a Republican from Pendle, he proposed it. Does he have bipartisan support on this?
I think right now it's a little hard to say. I mean, when we're looking at the proposal for nurses, teachers, and police officers, that didn't have unanimous support. There was some concern about how much this would actually cost us in the budget, because I think it was something like $225 million over 3 years they're expecting. This one, I'm not sure. I don't think they've run the numbers on that yet. But Hogan's bill, it's sitting in the Finance Committee in the House right now, so we haven't seen too much discussion of it, kind of where those fault lines will fall.
And the third story we want to talk about this morning is the Pennsylvania Treasury returning this huge number in unclaimed property. So tell me about it, because a lot of people don't realize, and you write about this, the Treasury holding about $4.5 billion in unclaimed property. And a lot of people are like, what? How does that work? Can you take us through it?
Yeah, so I mean, this is that $4.5 billion that's generally been what we've seen in recent years. The Treasury holds a bunch of money. I mean, some of it can be unclaimed tax returns. Some of it is safe deposit boxes that people have forgotten about. And this falls on just residents. This falls on businesses, as well as local governments also often can have some unclaimed property. This takes a lot of different shape. What's nice to see is we've seen some reforms within the Pennsylvania Treasury in recent years to make this process easier. It's easier to search the Treasury's website to see if you have some property listed to claim. It's easier to make a claim online. Until a couple years ago, we didn't have a process where you could submit a claim online, and then the Treasury also can just direct deposit the property to you if it's just in the form of money. Other things like, they'll find safe deposit boxes filled with, military medals or old, watches, valuables, things like that. Those things, you can't just zip those over. It gets a little more complicated. But this is kind of a lingering problem in every state where the Treasury holds onto this money, or someone might pass away and they had a safe deposit box that the family forgot about or didn't know about. And so it gets so complicated getting these valuables or getting this money back to their original owners. But it's nice to see at least the Treasury makes it a little easier than it has been in years past for people to check on that and claim what they're missing.
Yeah, I know it's Treasurer Stacey Garrity. How long do you have? Because it's time-stamped, right?
That I'm not actually sure about. I think at some point it kind of goes out, but if they seem to hold it for at least a good amount of
for a good amount
number
of
years before it just kind of defaults out.
And I guess, and then legally at some point, if you don't eventually claim it, I think it goes back to the state, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think it's something like that. And the Treasury is legally obligated to advertise this and let people know, hey, we have unclaimed property. You should check on these things. So there is at least they're avoiding that incentive of keeping this on the down low. So this kind of defaults to the government. But it's $4.5 billion. This is not something. This is not a simple backlog that we can clear out in a year or two, unfortunately.
Yes, you can go to patreasury.gov. And then it'll take you through. But I think that's a great improvement because a lot of people might not even realize they have something in there. And, why not just check it out? It's like winning the lottery, right? In these tough economic times. Anthony Hennon, what are you working on next?
Yeah, so let's see, what am I working on? This week we have some more EMS hearings coming up, I believe, out in Representative Martin Causer's district. I'm looking into some things concerning the opioid crisis and money coming in from that. Let's see. And some other conservation natural resource issues popping up. So we'll see how all these go.
Fantastic. Anthony Hennon, Center Square, thecentersquare.com if you want to look up. Anthony does so much work. It's like a book every week. So Anthony Hennon, thank you so much for joining me this morning.
Thank you.
Doing great work. All right, so thecentersquare.com, and he has a plethora of articles. He's looking at Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, statewide, budget. It's all in there for you. So definitely it's worth checking out and gets you away from just Philadelphia news necessarily. So I like to check out some of the stories and what's going on, especially in our Pennsylvania legislature. Yes, we're still at a budget impasse, so we'll talk about that moving forward. Let's take a quick break, and we'll do a reset. And be right back.
Rich Zioli's back on the road this summer at his happy place, the Grand Hotel in Cape May.
Is this not a beautiful place or what, huh?
Join us for a special Thursday broadcast this Thursday, July 27th, 3 till 7. Whether you're on your way to Cape May or already there, come by for all the fun.
Come on by if you're on your way to Cape May.
The Grand Hotel is at 1045 Beach Ave. This Thursday, 3 till 7. Only on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT and the Odyssey app.
Mostly cloudy skies for the rest of the morning. Scattered showers and an isolated thunderstorm. We warm to 83 at noon. Gradually decreasing clouds this afternoon, a high of 87. Clouds, some sunshine Tuesday, a warmer day, 89 the high, with afternoon showers and thunderstorms. Then a break from the storms on Wednesday, but the heat is on. Mostly sunny, 92. Will feel like the mid-90s on Wednesday. I'm NBC 10 First Alert meteorologist Bill Henley.
Weather sponsored by Millville Air Show. Help honor World War II aviation heritage at Millville Army Airfield, America's first defense airport and gunnery school for P-47 Thunderbolt fighter pilots. Admissions free. Schedule a group tour online at p47millville.org and become a member now. Win and save this baseball season from Colony Pools and Power Washing, a local company serving Delaware, Delco, and Chester County since 1970. Are you tired of looking at your green house? Is your roof, siding, deck stained green from algae and mold? Let the experts pressure wash your home and take the pressure off of you. Win with Colony Pools and Power Washing. Call them now at 302-762-2250. That's 302-762-2250.
Here's an incredible opportunity for those on the doorstep of retirement. Save up to 40% on your auto insurance. That's right, 40%. How? Contact Del Val Insurance Group. They're an advocate, not an insurance company, which means they get you the right coverage for the right money. As an official partner of Roadmap to Retirement, their objective is to save you money, not reduce coverage. Call Fran or call Jim, managing partners of Del Val Insurance, 215-354-0122, or get a free quote at dvigi.com.
It was the day we all feared. The stock market went down and then kept going.
2008, when the markets lost over 50% of their value. But that was over a decade ago. Today, it's not so painful. Jim Cipriotti at Retire Ready Financial Group